All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to give a couple of quick demonstrations on how to do unit conversions. Okay. So let's look at this first problem. We'll make it pretty simple. Let's say I had, I don't know, 6 inches. Oops, wrong tool there. Let's say I have 6 inches and I want to convert that to feet. Okay. The first thing you always need when you're doing unit conversions is some sort of key or conversion factor to get from one unit to another, right? So we know if we look at those charts I gave you, okay, we know that for every 1 foot, there are 12 inches. Okay, so next, what we have to do to set up the problem is we do what I call make the tree, which is this grid looking thing here. And right here, you always put what your starting units are. So this is always going to be starting units. Okay, over here, in this part of the grid, this is going to be your conversion factor. Now, the nice thing about this method is if you set everything up right, okay, you never have to worry about whether you did it right or not. And you'll get the right answer every time. So let's look at a couple of examples. Okay, so this first one here, what is our starting units? Well, we started with 6 inches. We want to convert that to feet. Okay, so over here, I'm going to write 6 inches. Okay, now over here, this is where my key is going to go. And I know that in every 1 foot, there are 12 inches. Okay, I know that I've set this problem up correctly because my inches will cancel out with my inches here. And when I look at it, all I'm left with is feet, and that's what I want. Okay, so I multiply 6 times 1, okay, and I get 6. Down here, I have 12. And then this is 6 feet because my feet are left. So 6 feet divided by 12 inches, okay, put that in your calculator and you should end up with 1/2 foot. Okay, so 6 inches equals 1/2 of a foot. Let's look at another one. For whatever reason, I want to know how many seconds there are in 8 hours. Okay, so 8 hours equals how many seconds? All right, so I'm going to start using my tree. And over here, I write what I start with. So I start with 8 hours. Now, you could just go straight from hours to seconds, but let's just say I didn't know what any of the conversion factors are. So I have to do this in steps. Okay, so the first step is I do know how many hours there are in a minute, right? So I do know that 1 hour equals 60 minutes. So that becomes my first conversion factor. Okay, I also know that in 1 minute there are 60 seconds. Okay, so that's going to be my second key. So this one I'm actually going to do in 2 steps. So I start with 8 hours, and I know that in every 1 hour there are 60 minutes. Okay, I know that I've set this up correctly because my hours are going to cancel out. Okay, so you want your hours to be on opposite sides. That way they cancel out. And then what I'm going to be left with when I do the math is minutes. That's the only units I have left here. Okay, but I don't want minutes. What I want is seconds. So I have to keep going. There's another step I have to do here. All right, so I know that every 1 minute has 60 seconds, right? Now I know I've set this up correctly because these minutes are on opposite sides and they're going to cancel out. And now all I'm left with here is seconds. At the end of the day, all my other units have canceled out. So now I know I've done this math correctly, okay? Because when I do it, the only thing I'm going to be left with is seconds, and that's what I want. So going across on top, okay, what I have here is 8 times 60 times 60, and this is going to be seconds. Okay, and on the bottom here, 1 times 1 is 1. So over 1. All right, so if I do this on my calculator, 8 times 60 times 60 equals 28,800. Okay, so I know that 8 hours equals 28,800 seconds. Let's say I had 17 inches, okay, and I want to convert this to centimeters. All right, now, again, in order to do this, what you need is a key. Okay, conversion factor, something to unlock inches and centimeters. Okay, so I know my key is going to be, for every 1 inch, there are 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so over here are going to be my starting units, and my starting units are 17 inches. Okay, and over here is going to be my conversion factor, and I know in every 1 inch there are 2.54 centimeters, and I know that I've set this up correctly because my inches are opposite of each other, and they're going to cancel out, and at the end of the day I'm going to be left with centimeters, and that's what I want. Okay, so if I multiply this across, I get 17 times 2.54 over 1, and this is centimeters. And if I do this math with my calculator, 17, oops, let me clear that out. 17 times 2.54 equals, and you get 43.18 centimeters. Okay, so 17 inches equals 43.18 centimeters. Okay, so on this next problem, I want to know, let's say I have 32 seconds. I want to know how many microseconds is this? Okay, how many microseconds in 32 seconds? All right, so what I want you guys to do now is go ahead and pause the video and try to work this out yourself. Okay, so again, I make my tree, and my starting units I put over here, so I start with 32 seconds. Okay, and now I need to put a conversion factor here. Okay, so I know that for every second there are 1 million microseconds, and I know that I've set this up right because my seconds are opposite, so they're going to cancel out. Okay, so essentially what I have here is 32 times 1 million. And when you do that math, you can do it in your calculator, but it's going to end up being 32 million microseconds. Or you could write this 32 times 10 to the 6 microseconds. Okay, on this last problem, this is probably going to be the most complicated one we do, okay, and it has to do with ultrasonics. So what I want you to figure out is, let's say we have our material velocity for a material is 0.24, okay, inches per microsecond. I want to know what this is going to be in centimeters per second, okay? So a couple different things going on here at once. The first thing is we're converting inches to centimeters, okay? And then also at the same time, we're going to be converting microseconds to seconds. So actually 2 different conversions happening at one time. Not only that, I think you could see here, we're going from inches, which are imperial units, over to centimeters, which is metric units. Okay, so really, we got kind of 3 things going on here at once. Okay, but it's all easy as long as you follow the steps. Okay, step 1, make the tree. Okay, so make my tree, and then right here, I'm going to put my starting unit. So it's 0.24, and inches go on top, inches per microsecond. Now the microseconds have to go on the bottom here. Why? Because they're being divided. Whenever you hear the word per, it means divide. Inches per microsecond. You're dividing there. Okay? All right, so this is what I start off with, 0.24 inches per microsecond. All right, so let's start with our first conversion. Okay, I know that in my first key is going to be for every 1 inch, there are 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so for every 1 inch, there are 2.54 centimeters. I know I've set this up right because my inches are opposite. They're going to cancel out. Now, if I were to do this math now, I would end up with centimeters per microsecond. Okay, but I don't want centimeters per microsecond. I want centimeters per second. So I have to keep going. I have to do one more conversion. Okay, so my second conversion factor that I'm going to use is I know that in 1 second, there are 1 million microseconds. Okay, so I'm going to put in 1 second, there are 1 million microseconds. And I know I've set this up again correctly because my microseconds are on opposite sides and they will cancel out. That's what I want. I want to be left with seconds. Okay, so if I don't, before I even do any math, I just go back and I check my units and, verify that everything's canceled out and see what I'm left with. I'm left with centimeters here and I'm left with seconds here. So what I'll get is centimeters per second. And that's good because that's what I want. Okay, so I know that I've set this up correctly. Okay, so next, all I do is multiply everything across the top. 0.24 times 2.54 times a million, and I'm just going to shorthand this to 10 to the 6th. Okay, divided by, and if I multiply everything across the bottom, all I have is 1 times 1, that's over 1. Okay, so now it's just a matter of doing the math. So 0.24 times 2.54 times 1 million, and you should get 609,600 centimeters per second. Okay, so 0.24 inches per microsecond equals 609,600 centimeters per second.